What is going on, all of you echidnas out there in the world? I am Mega Amster. Thank you for checking out this impressions video, whether you are a new or returning viewer. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this hopefully not super long video, because I am talking today about my impressions of the Knuckles TV show, which just aired almost a week ago as of this recording and this upload date. But definitely, I've had a couple watch-throughs now. Shout out to everybody in the community who I watched with originally, which is the watch party, the Discord. That was really fun. And then I ended up watching it again, all 6 episodes, on my own. So I'm going to it's going to be hard not to talk about spoilers. So the majority of this video I expect is going to be spoiler focused. I will have timestamps to indicate those moments, but I'll start with the very general non-spoilery stuff and then clearly shift into the spoiler section. So let's start with just overall impressions. So yes, this show was 6 episodes long. It was interesting because I remember, I don't know, maybe it wasn't the official account itself, but it was some account that was saying, might have just been like a Sonic fan account that was saying it was going to be an hour long each episode, and that wasn't the case at all. The total runtime is probably about 3.5 hours, so it's not super duper long, but 6 episodes total. And of course, being themed after Knuckles, Wade from the Sonic movies is also a main character of the show. We'll get into that in a second here. And of course, it is the namesake of Knuckles. This hat isn't going to stay. Sorry, I got to take it off. I got Knuckles here with me instead. Bootleg Knuckles. He's here chilling with me to review this show. But overall thoughts, I had fun. I had fun with this show. I'm not going to sit here as a big Sonic fan. I'm not going to sit here and say the show is good, because I don't think it's necessarily a great show. I think it's entertaining, though, depending on what you're looking for and if you don't take things too seriously. Because at the end of the day, I mean, this movie more than likely is not going to have, this show is not going to have any bearing on Sonic Movie 3. I really don't think it will. There's one aspect that might, and I feel like I had to save that for the spoiler part of this impressions video, because I feel like otherwise it'd just not give too much away, but I don't even know if it's going to be a big part. It really is its own side story following Knuckles and Wade as they kind of go through their own world. They each kind of have their own struggles to overcome. With Knuckles, it kind of involves, still kind of dealing with his past a little bit that they somewhat established in Sonic Movie 2, but also there's a whole side plot going on with some actual villains I say side plot, I'll get into it in a second, of the story. And then Wade has his own personal struggles related to his family, related to his dad. And I gotta say, my biggest complaint about this show, without giving too much away, is that, and I've seen this complaint a lot online, and I think it's totally valid, my biggest complaint is that Wade really is the main character of this show. There is a decent amount of Knuckles, especially the first 3 episodes, but especially starting with episode 4, it really takes a shift in favor of Wade, and I'm guessing that's probably because of time constraints, budgets, budgeting when it comes to animating the CGI for Knuckles or whatever. I imagine that takes a lot more time and effort and budget to do. So I'm guessing that's part of it. I mean, it also could have just been a creative choice on the director's end. I don't fully know. But definitely, halfway through, it kind of takes a turn into, 80% Wade, 20% Knuckles. Whereas the first 3 episodes, I feel are pretty solid, 50-50 split. And performances across the board, pretty solid. I really like Wade's character in this show. I just complained about Wade having most of the screen time in the show overall compared to Knuckles, who's the show namesake. I think that's an issue. It could have been called Knuckles and Wade or something. I know it's less catchy. They could have called it Wade and Knuckles. They literally should have called it Wade and Knuckles. That would have been perfect, because Wade really is the main character of the show. But to that point of things, the positive side of that, I think this is the best Wade's ever been. He's way more of a character in this show. And in Sonic Movie 1, he was kind of barely there. He's just a random comic relief side character. He had a little more relevancy in Sonic Movie 2 with the little bit he was involved. Still not a ton, though. But in those movies, I kind of just found him a bit annoying, and I'm sure some people totally will, but I thought he definitely had way more of a character going on. He's still that typical goofball comic relief character who's kind of an idiot, but he has, character growth when it comes to interacting with his family, with his dad, and all of this stuff going on. And kind of his passion is his own personal struggles, which is an interesting take. And honestly, as far as it goes for making a human character in Sonic interesting, I think the show does a decent job. But yes, because there's more focused on Wade than Knuckles, you get a lot more character growth with Wade. The character growth is almost fully on Wade in the show. Knuckles, a little bit. He becomes more friendly. That's kind of his whole thing. He actually kind of befriends Wade and trusts Wade as like pretty much like a competent person, right? Which he didn't really at first. Not really anyone does. Now I think Knuckles probably understands Wade the most, except for maybe Tom in the movies. But like there was a little bit of progression there, but it really is focused on Wade for better and for worse. Related to that though, each Knuckles and Wade each have their own personal struggles. And Knuckles' struggle kind of involves Wade. I don't want to give spoilers, but it involves some villains, some new villains in the show, who I'll get into my thoughts on them later in the spoiler section. But like Wade's kind of involved with that, whereas Knuckles really isn't involved at all with Wade's personal struggle. He kind of interacts a little bit with it, but really not much at all. He's just kind of there. It's really Wade's struggle, whereas with Knuckles, Wade's involved a little bit too, but he just kind of gets pulled into it. Because of that split, I feel like the plots they're not connected enough. Like both plot threads are completely separate, and I think to the show's detriment, there are moments where some of the villain characters you see in like the first couple episodes are gone for literally 2 episodes straight, and then they just show up again like, oh yeah, you're here, while Wade's plot was kind of going through and developing. You know what I mean? So I feel like they could have balanced that a little bit more. Some of the episodes did great at blending both, especially like the first half of the show I think is pretty solid. My favorite moment of the show is in episode 4. I'm going to save what that moment is for the spoiler section specifically, because I don't want to spoil anybody, because it's such a funny moment. Although hardcore Sonic fans who like canon things are going to fucking hate it. I can tell you that much. But yeah, it's because of the Knuckles and Wade kind of separation, even though they do sometimes overlap, but a lot of the times they're still separate. You get these plot threads where like you don't see plot threads resolved until like 2 episodes later or something. You know what I mean? Like the ending of the show is really, without spoiling anything, is like Wade kind of resolving his plot thread. Knuckles' plot thread literally barges through a wall, and it's like, oh yeah, remember these people? Like, yeah, it's a little, I don't know, it's a little messy in terms of trying to integrate both kind of their own personal struggles into one show. As much as it adds to Wade's character, I really think they should have cut out his whole thing with his dad. Like, it gives him more motivation in terms of like where he ends up in the end, but it's like, I don't know, it's a little, I feel like it conflicts with the actual interesting plot. Well, what could have been the interesting plot, but ends up being the side plot like too much, you know, it conflicts too much with that. But like, it's an entertaining show. It's fun. Like I said, Wade is honestly, I personally think he's a fun character. Knuckles is fun with Idris Elba as always. A very different interpretation of Knuckles compared to like the games, but I do like it. Of course, we got this great gif of Knuckles eating grapes because he loves his grapes. And they both kind of learn from each other. Wade and Knuckles definitely grow together. I think that is one of this show's strongest points. Kind of similar to Tom and Sonic in Sonic Movie 1, right? These two characters grow together because they're interacting with each other, and they're honestly kind of polar opposites in some ways. Knuckles is this very like fierce warrior, kind of naive, but this like warrior mindset. Wade is, you know, much more casual dude, much more relatable dude compared to Knuckles, right? But they learn from each other in this show, and I think that's one of the show's greatest strengths. There are definitely some funny moments as well. Some of the supporting characters, like Wade's family, can be really funny. Certain people of his family. Otherwise, you don't see too much of like some of the other characters from the movies. It really is focused on just Wade and Knuckles and some new side characters as well. And like across the board, the villain in the side plot, I didn't think did a great job. I'm not going to mention too much about that. And there were some plot holes that definitely kind of like left things to be desired. But I mean, overall, I feel like there's not much else I can say without spoiling it. So overall, though, before I get into the spoiler section, I had fun. I was entertained both times that I watched through. You know, you don't need to watch this show for movie 3. At least I highly doubt it. But if you're interested, if you want to kill 3.5 hours, it's entertaining, in my opinion, at least. But with that, we're going to get into the spoiler section, where I'm going to try not to go on for too long, but I'll give you a few seconds before we jump in. Hope I don't get copyright claim for Ice Cap. All right, spoiler time. Here we go. So, the only thing, going back to what I said earlier, that I could see being brought over from the show to movie 3 is the idea, and it's an interesting idea, and this is why I wish this was the main plot and you got rid of all of Wade's bowling stuff with his dad and his family. Like, sure, give him motivation, but like this plot thread could have been interesting, where it's the idea of these people defecting from Gun and weaponizing the quills. The quills is interesting, by the way, because there's a throwaway line from the female gun agent when she mentions that, you know, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles just apparently shed their quills everywhere. Like, I'm surprised it took this long in the movie universe for people to start collecting that. I mean, I guess maybe in the background they were. It's an interesting idea, though, like, of taking these quills, weaponizing them, and people who used to work with Gun. Like, I didn't even realize until the show that technically Eggman in the movie universe worked for Gunn until he got crazy and started hunting Sonic, right? That's what I don't even know what his name is. They don't really mention his character name, but the Hound from Game of Thrones, he plays like the main villain, quote unquote, in the Knuckles plot or whatever. I don't even know what, he's not even the main villain. I don't know what to call him. His character was honestly my least favorite because he barely had any screen time. You know, he should have had way more screen time. The gun agents were a little more interesting. Shout out to Kid Cudi and the not Uma Thurman. Kid Cudi did a better job acting than I thought. Action scenes were pretty solid, but yeah, like that was such a cool idea of like, okay, these people used to work for Gunn and now they're defecting, you know, and doing their own thing. Like that's a cool idea, which if they really want to explore like government corruption stuff in Sonic Movie 3, I don't know how deep they would go, but like that could be really cool. I could see that being an interesting thing that they take, especially, you know, I imagine Gunn's gonna have its biggest focus yet in Movie 3. So that could be an interesting plot thread to take. My favorite moment, for those of you who watched it, you better not have watched it yet, but episode 4, The Flames of Disaster, that whole low budget movie, music number, so good. I've been listening to that song since on streaming services so much since first watching that episode. The fact that, okay, I know Sonic fans are pissed because, they're implying in the movie universe that Knuckles fights Iblis and that the Flames of Disaster are like Knuckles' fiery gloves that he gets when he, like in Sonic Movie 2 at the very end, and he gets it in the show as well. Like, I saw some Sonic fans that were pissed. As a big Sonic fan myself, I just think it's funny. I think it's hysterical that they're referencing Sonic 06, and the music number with Michael Bolton and everything was so good. That got me. But the second favorite moment was definitely the family fight scene in episode 3 with Wade's family and Knuckles fighting off the bounty hunters. Like, that was fun. Knuckles' mom is great. She's a really fun character. His sisters, honestly, I find his sister kind of annoying, but Wade himself is a little more interesting. Like, I do like Wade's character a lot in the show, for sure. And Knuckles does a good job. It's just, I mean, yeah, the big issue for me is like near the end, the stuff with his dad, it's like, it kind of feels dragged out. They try to do like a dodgeball almost scenario with the whole bowling tournament, and it's like, it's fun. Like, that's the thing, it's fun, but it's like, literally, Knuckles gets thrown through a wall at the very last episode. It's like, oh, remember the villains? Like, I don't know. It felt very throwaway. The Hound, that actor, whatever his name is, his character was just literally there. They could have done so much more with him, but he just felt like a throwaway villain. And I guess he died, so I don't think he's going to be in the movie at all. Not that, I mean, I wouldn't have expected it from this show to carry over to there. Gun Agent's probably not either. I don't know. But, like, babe, if Kid Cudi gets a movie 3, good for him. But they'll definitely take some inspiration from that. Well, I don't want to say definitely. I feel like they could take inspiration from the idea of, like, the gun corruption. That is the biggest thing that I think could come out of this show going into movie 3, would be the idea of, all right, let's explore what happens when Gun gets corrupt. Like, what happens aboard the Ark 50 years ago? Tie that into it. You know what I mean? Like, make this a whole connected idea, because that kind of hits home sometimes too. You know, I think that's a cool idea. Like, the movie universe has the biggest potential to explore Gun as a concept. We don't see it much in the games at all. Like, the most we get is Shadow the Hedgehog with, like, the Gun Commander, but even that just scratches the surface. Like, they're already going into it more with the show here. So that I'm excited about. Otherwise, you know, it reminded me a lot of Sonic Movie 1 with, like, the Wade and Knuckles interactions, like, almost like the buddy cop idea. So a bit of a repeat, but, you know, they're different characters, right? Wade is a lot less confident. He's more goofy than Tom. Knuckles is more naive than Sonic and very stubborn. I guess Sonic is stubborn too, you know, but it works. They have a good dynamic, and they have an interesting dynamic. And the show just loves to have fun. That's what I love about it, right? The show loves to have fun. That music sequence number, right? People always complained about those sequences in Sonic Movie 1 and 2. I don't even remember what Movie 1 was. Oh, it was the bar scene. That one was fun. The one in Movie 2 was a bit annoying. This blows those out of the water. Are you kidding me? Like, the music sequence in this show blows those music sequences out of the water. It actually felt like it meant something. Also, shout out to Chief Pachacamac. I love that. I literally love that they made fun of the idea that no one can pronounce his name. I think it's Pachacamac, but I don't even know what I said. Pachacamac? I don't know. But it's so funny that they pointed that out. And, like, it was funny because I remember when they announced the casting for the show, like a year ago, I was like, oh, Christopher Lloyd, who is he playing? And then shout out to Neto, who pointed out to me, like, yo, that's Chief Pachacamac. I'm like, what? That's so funny. I didn't even realize it at first, but he just voices the Chief. I just think that's so funny. The guy who played Jack Sinclair, he was fun. I don't know why he was there, but he was fun. I guess for another antagonist for Wade to have, but then also his dad was the antagonist and just kind of shoehorned in. I don't know. It was a little too much. I really think they should have focused. It should have. I mean, ultimately, it should have been more focused on Knuckles. Wade could still be there helping him. I think the bowling idea for Wade was cool, especially the final fight where Wade uses the gloves that Kid Cudi had, throwing bowling balls at the mech. Like, that's a cool idea to, like, you know, normal humans in this world can help fight these villains, right? Like, I think that's actually a really, really cool idea. I wish they went further on that, you know, and had those gun agents and that main villain kind of be like the primary villain and not like Jack Sinclair and Wade's dad. You know, I think that would have been a better way to go. But I mean, I don't know if it was rushed or budget or just creative direction. You know, overall, before I make this video too long, it was fun. I was entertained. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a great show, but I had a lot of fun while it was on screen. Some of the jokes were a little cringy, and some points, especially near the end of the show, definitely felt a little dragged out, but they were genuinely really good moments between Knuckles and Wade. They both had character progressions, especially Wade. Like, I ended up liking Wade's character a lot more. Like, I hope he's in movie 3 a decent amount, because honestly, I think I like his character more than both Tom and Maddie. Like, they feel so bland compared to Wade now based off the show. So hopefully, you know, if we see more of him in movie 3, I would not be complaining. And I mean, I sure hope we see Knuckles in movie 3, but that's going to do it for this impressions video. Overall, like I said, fun show. I mean, if you're a Sonic fan, if you're a fan of the movie universe, give it a watch, right? It's literally total, like, no more than 4 hours total runtime. So definitely give it a watch if you're at all curious. You know, I did the week free trial for Paramount Plus, so feel free to do the same as well if you want to, if you don't have it already. But with that, that is going to do it for this impressions video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you watched the show, what you thought of it. I know some people don't like it, some people love it. Definitely let me know what you thought personally of the show below, or if you haven't watched it yet, feel free. Let me know if I sold you on it. I hope, but we'll see. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, don't chuckle. Nothing's funny.